As we wrap up 2023, I want to cover with you the top 5 things that went down on the Below Deck shows this year. Now, we had a lot of seasons throughout the year, and we're feeling very blessed about that. So we are going to cover the top moments from Below Deck Med, Below Deck Sailing Yacht, and Below Deck Down Under. And there were some huge events that happened for the stars of Below Deck this year. So let's just dive right in. First up, what we did witness in the beginning of the year was Captain Lee's last ride. Yep, that's right. After season 10 of Below Deck, 10 years of the amazing Captain Lee, our boat daddy, he is now sailing on to new ventures. And, you know, it was a really rocky season in general. We really didn't even get a lot of Captain Lee because he got hurt early in the season, and Captain Sandy from Below Deck Med actually came in, stepped up, and led the boat. And Lee came back at the very end, but at that point, all the damage was done between not just the crew and Captain Sandy, but also Captain Lee and Captain Sandy. Although she did him a favor by stepping in, he definitely was not happy about the reception when he returned, that she fired different people while he was out and not really consulting him before making those kinds of decisions. Now, whether or not that was her place to do so on the boat, it did leave a rift between the captains, and we kind of saw that play out on the stage at BravoCon. We can see that things aren't so good. Captain Lee was given a show with Cait Chastain, his former chief stew, where they would review all the shows of the week. And it was called Couch Talk with Cait and Captain Lee. And, you know, the one thing about it is it really was just like a filler show to fill in the blanks while Andy Cohen took some time off from Watch What Happens Live. So it's not like it was a well thought through show that really had legs to continue. It was just filler and just trying to make fans who really love Captain Lee happy. So that'll be your last season of Below Deck with the beloved Captain Lee. But we will see Captain Cait in 2024 take the helm, and we'll see how that goes. Next up is the Below Deck Sailing Yacht Love Triangle. Oh my goodness. If we needed another reason to love Daisy Keller, watching these guys fight over her was top tier. And I think the most important thing about this is that all three of themselves were very authentic throughout it. They were just their true selves. They didn't hide their feelings. They didn't, hide any relationships going on. But Colin, Gary, and Daisy had a love triangle. They've been on the boat for Sailing Yacht since season 2, and they've become a real trio with Captain Glenn. So it was a little hard to watch to see them kind of fizzle out in the end. You really hope that they would figure it out, and that Daisy and Colin, they just seemed like such a good couple. It made sense to us. We knew that they continued seeing each other after the season, but honestly, Gary did damage. And you know what? While we're on the topic, Gary continued to do damage after the season. He actually went back to shoot season 5 with Daisy. We don't know how long that continued, but there are some behind the scenes photos for the next season. So we know that he's going to film again and Daisy's going to film again, or they already did film again. But that won't air until spring of 2024. And because of Gary's other allegations of misconduct and what have you, let's call it SA, or just being a little inappropriate with some of the film crew on set, we don't know if they'll even keep Gary in the show at all. So that's something we're just going to have to wait until spring of 2024 to find out what happens with Gary. We know he got cut from BravoCon. Obviously there have been some precedent cases like this where a star was, shot on the show and then ended up being cut through editing. So we'll have to just wait and see. But yes, the love triangle ended poorly, but man, was it fun to watch from start to finish. The only bummer was that Colin and Daisy really have a lot of scars coming from that relationship. They are not good. It looks like Gary and Colin are okay, but yeah, it's it's not good between the three of them. So that's a bummer that we won't get to see any of those relationships bloom. Next up, let's talk about Below Deck Down Under. So this year we did get to see Aisha back in action with Captain Jason. Captain Jason has been the Bravo Celebrity of the Year. Check out any articles about BravoCon and just the general Bravo sphere. Captain Jason is on top right now. So I think this is going to continue to be a big consistent theme, is that the people want more Aisha and they want more Captain Jason. And that's what they're going to get in 2024. What we did see this season that was new was something none of us saw coming. I think was the most cringeworthy, uncomfortable, trigger invoking moment of the show of all time, which was Luke being so inappropriate that, you know, Aisha stepped in and said to Margot, "This is making me uncomfortable." And ultimately, the production crew, the producer herself, everybody had to come in and intervene to prevent what I can only call an assault. Something truly inappropriate where Margot was unconscious and Luke was naked and trying to sleep into her cabin. And yeah, it was totally inappropriate, totally an abuse of trust. And yeah, so it was just a really horrible moment. Aisha handled it wonderfully. Captain Jason handled it wonderfully. He got him off the boat immediately. They got to the bottom of it. They took care of Margot through that season. They took really good care of her after this, to the extent that they didn't even have a reunion because they just didn't want to bring back up that topic that is, you know, a lot of trauma for Margot. So I think what we're seeing here is, you know, the year of Aisha and Jason was solidified at that moment because of how they handled that. We know across Bravo and across reality TV, a lot of people feel that they are put in uncomfortable situations and no one does anything about it. And really what that moment in television showed us is that when it comes down to it, if production is aware of something like that going on, they step in and they intervene. So I think that was a good overall moment for Bravo to show what they can do to prevent things like that from happening. Ultimately, Luke was, you know, completely written off the planet. He was canceled. And honestly, he was canceled more than Tom Sandoval was this year in Bravo history. So I think that says something. Laura was also fired from that season, and, you know, she ultimately was being inappropriate to a deckhand Adam. And really, had she crossed a physical boundary, sort of, but not to the extent that Luke had, but she continued to run her mouth about it online. And yeah, that's just, it is what it is. They're gone. Good riddance. They really tried to make a comeback and defend themselves, but there's no defending those actions. So yeah, sometimes they can claim that things are just editing, but we saw what we saw. And yeah, ultimately, Aisha, Jason, and the production crew made the right call. That was a big moment in Below Deck history this year. Next up, let's talk about Below Deck Med. This has been our season that's now going into the beginning of 2024, but we're about midway through the season right now on Below Deck Med. And I'm going to tell you right now, we've only got a few charters left, and a lot of fans have spoken out that they just really didn't like this season, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because the entire season was built around the storyline of Toomey coming from Below Deck Down Under over to Below Deck Med, and Natalia and Kyle coming back. So much of the drama this season has been focusing on these three, and the drama has been petty. It's been inappropriate. Toomey has not been able to gain control of her crew, especially her interior. And yeah, so I think we're going to continue to see some rough waters when it comes to how Below Deck Med continues to find its footing. A lot of fans aren't wild about Captain Sandy. I don't really subscribe to that because I know how Bravo fans tend to be really finicky with women in leadership positions. They tend to pick a side against it. And, you know, I don't think that's really fair to Captain Sandy. I think she's a great leader, but she hasn't found her counterpart. And that's not really her fault. I mean, you can't just like stumble upon people who are great partners like Captain Lee and Cait, right? And even Aisha and Jason, you know, the bond that they have and the friendships and the trust that they have between Captain and Chief, that's very important. And Sandy has not found her chief stew that really fits her way of working and way of communicating and her standard, whatever it is. Everyone's unique. It takes a lot of different factors to all get along in tight quarters. And yeah, I mean, I think it's really just missing that. So maybe we'll get that. We know that Aisha is coming back in 2024 for Below Deck Med. They'll have a chief stew. She'll get fired and Aisha will step in. So, you know, I think it makes sense for Aisha to do everything, but yeah, we ultimately don't know what's kind of next up for Below Deck Med. They've been fishing around for a story that people are interested in, but they've been missing out on some really great exterior casts and even the chef that are very entertaining. And yeah, so I honestly put this season of Below Deck Med on production. Don't kill me. But I ultimately think that they just followed the wrong storyline. And, you know, once you've already shot the season, there's not much you can do on that. People thought it was going to be all about Tumi, Natalia, and Kyle, and that the viewers would love it. And you know what? From the very beginning, it was a mistake to bring Kyle back, ultimately. I mean, Kyle is at the root of everything that went wrong, and that he cried mental health when he had any kind of consequences or repercussions. You know, it's just, they all get sick at different points. They're burnt out. It's just not a good culture on the boat. So, yeah, I think there's going to have to be a serious makeover of how Below Deck Med functions before it can be as successful as some of the other franchises at this point. Last but not least, I want to cover what we learned about the crew in 2023, which is that we've got a whole lot more coming this year. We do know some of the stars that are coming back. We know that Fraser and Ben are coming back to Below Deck. We've got Captain Cait coming from Below Deck Adventure over. Below Deck Adventure has been canceled indefinitely, so there could be more to know there. We do know that there are some rumors going around about Below Deck Down Under, and it may be too expensive to continue filming the show where they have been filming it around Australia. With that, they could go in a totally new direction. So it could be Below Deck Down Under, but maybe they're going on diving excursions. You know, I think there may be a way that they pull in some of that adventure piece of Below Deck Adventure into Below Deck Down Under. Now, we'll just have to see. They could just move it over to New Zealand. It really just depends on where they can afford to shoot and put together the show in a way that makes sense budget-wise. But we do know we are getting the next season of Below Deck Down Under. I believe they're supposed to start shooting soon. And we also know that Below Deck should be shooting in February. So we hope to see who that next season will be too. We also know that Gary and Daisy will be back with Captain Glenn on Below Deck Sailing Yacht. We know that Jason and Aisha will be back, although Aisha may be making a jump for Below Deck Med instead of Down Under. So TBD on if she comes back to Down Under. I think fans would be really disappointed if she didn't stay in Down Under. And yeah, lots coming down the pipe. We did have some other fun things pop up this year, so it's worth calling out that we saw some of the Below Deck stars start to emerge into other Bravo shows. Winter House was such success in 2023 because they brought in Katie Flood, Alex Propson, and Malia White. They really made the show so fun, fresh energy. They are down to party. It's obviously kind of like a vacation to them because usually they're having to work and be on camera. So this was just party and be on camera. Katie had a great love interest with Tom Schwartz from Vanderpump Rules. So I'm thinking we saw a good fit for the below deck stars to start converging with whether it's summer house or winter house. I think there's more yachties coming that way, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see maybe some of the Southern Charm or Southern Hospitality stars making their way over to winter house as well. So yeah, really excited about what this means. I love any chance we get to see our favorite yachties back on our screens. So it was fun watching them on winter house as well. All right, 2023 was crazy. A lot happened. I tried to boil it down into like a top 5. I want to hear what were your top favorite moments of 2023 for Below Deck. I love this show. I have so much fun watching it with you guys, talking about it with you guys. Let me know what you're most excited about for 2024 as well. Thanks, and Happy New Year.